This video is brought to you by catbeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats.
What up, though? This your boy DOC. Now, man, this movie haven't even been out 2 weeks yet, and All Eyez On Me is being sued. Now, it's a journalist named Kevin Powell that works for Vibe magazine. In the mid-90s, he did a ton of interviews with Tupac, where he was focusing on Afeni Shakur, the Black Panthers, the gangsta rap movement. And according to the suit, All Eyez On Me executive producer LT Hutton did an interview just recently saying he looked at all the Tupac interviews, and that's how he came up with the movie. Now, Powell, who is recognized from season 1 of The Real World, says after seeing the movie, he saw many similarities to his articles. From the instance, the movie has a character named Nigel, as does Powell's article. But he says Nigel was fictional, based on a real guy named Haitian Jack. The fact Nigel appears in the movie proves filmmakers lifted Powell's work, according to the suit. He says the movie also featured journalists played by Hill Harper talking to Tupac in prison, just as he did. So for the people that seen the movie, how the beginning part, how they really, manipulated the movie to have the parts that was going back in Tupac's life, how Tupac was talking to the journalists, that's actually supposed to have been Kevin Powell in real life. Sources connected to Powell tell us that the parallel isn't lost on the public because he's been asked multiple times if Hill's character was based on him. He told Powell currently working on Tupac's biography, but before it comes out, he's shooting for the moon with this lawsuit. He's asking the judge to immediately block the film from playing in theaters and award him a slice of the profits that has been already earned. And just like I said, dog, for everybody that subscribed to me, big shout out to y'all, big love to y'all, love all y'all feedback. But what's been one of the main things I've been constantly saying, if you already a Tupac fan, it was nothing in that movie that you basically did not already know for them to call it the untold story. Now, I didn't 100% just bash the movie because at the end of the day, I'm a Tupac fan, so I was curious. I wanted to go see it. But as far as from my expectations, as far as different things that I know about Tupac myself from being a fan, it was way more to him than just what was shown of just highlighting that last year. Now, I know it's called All Eyez On Me, so they're going to just briefly summarize or paraphrase everything up to that point of the All Eyez On Me part, even though it was a 2.5-hour movie. But it was so much deeper that they could have actually went into that movie instead of just focusing on those focal points as far as just the negative things. They could have showed more positive, his thought process, why he, they briefly showed a little bit of why his thought process was there because of his mother and the Black Panther and this and that. But it was so many moving pieces to it. That's why I said this movie should have been, if they can find some type of way in these type of instances like 50 Cent is doing with the BMF movie, so on and so forth. If they really making tons of money off of going to Netflix or the Stars or something like that, maybe a subscription-based place where they can get paid off the subscriptions, they can get paid off the views plus the advertising, or however it goes, to break these type of stories down in mini-series. Because doing biopics is never going to be, just perfect. It's too many moving parts, especially with a person like Tupac. But like I said, I said from the very beginning, my very first video before I even did my review, if you just studied the internet for 1 year straight, you could have came up with that script. And the thing is, you're thinking about it from a business perspective, LT and them, one is known that they cut, allegedly, Afeni Shakur out of that situation. Then, unfortunately, rest in peace to her, she ended up passing away. Just like John Singleton's going into numerous interviews after the fact, he's been confirming that they underhanded, Afeni. And John Singleton was actually working directly with Afeni and was getting approval for his full script, and basically kind of denied the claims that LT went on the Breakfast Club and said of all the garbage that he was trying to put into it. For whatever reason, them two individuals are bickering, going back and forth. But it took for 50 Cent to come out and say it for people to really kind of believe what John Singleton was saying. But this right here, if that's the guy, if the guy that was interviewing Pac inside of prison is Kevin Powell, so that's his actual character, and then they're taking different parts from his interviews and stuff like that, It has to be laws where you can't just use a person's likeness. And then it's a direct correlation where he said in his interviews they were referred to Haitian Jack as Nigel. That's why when I was watching the movie, I was wondering why they was calling him Nigel instead of Haitian Jack. But if in his interview and his articles that he put into Vibe magazine in the 90s, he was calling him Nigel and then they called him Nigels in the movie, that basically shows that, yes, that's something that they reference. And it has to be laws. If this dude is going to even spend the money to get attorneys to take this to court, and he has to have some type of foundation to possibly win. Now, I don't know if they're going to take it out of theaters or not, but we'll just have to see what goes on with the situation. So as this update builds, I'll keep you guys updated. But I'll let your boy, this DOC. Peace.